This is 3-5 scatter plots and trends. A scatter plot is a graph with points plotted to show a possible relationship between two sets of data. A correlation describes that relationship. There are three types of correlations. There's a positive correlation, which mostly goes uphill from left to right as we read from left to right. A negative correlation, as you go from left to right, it ends up going downhill. And no correlation is sort of like a blizzard, a snowstorm, where it's just like all scattered about. We don't really see a positive or a negative line. Sometimes if there's a pretty straight line forming, we'd call that our trend line, or you can draw a trend line through the data to use for predicting. Okay, in example 1, we're going to make a scatter plot of this data. So the time since the cookies were baked is our x, and the amount of cookies left would be our y. So I'm going to label that as cookies on the y-axis and time measured in d, so probably days. And my days, my x values range from 1 to 4, so I just want to make sure I can fit all of those on my graph. Should be evenly spaced here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And our cookies range from 7 to 24, so I need to be able to get all the way up to 24, so maybe I'll count by 6. 6, 12, 18, 24. So the zero's at the corner. So in one day, the first day we had 24 cookies. The second day, we had 16 cookies. Third day, 10 cookies. And fourth day, 7 cookies. And so what's happening here is we have a negative correlation. You can kind of see the trend line. If I make a straight line kind of hitting most of these points, we see that it's a negative correlation. And we could predict what might happen by day 5. You might be at like 1 or 0 cookies using that trend line. We can predict. Here we're asked to describe the correlation. So I'm looking at my x-axis first. So as the average daily temperature increases, so as the daily temperature increases, let's see what's happening to the number of visitors. Well, it seems like the number of visitors are increasing. Since as one thing is going up, the other is going up, that's a positive correlation. So positive correlation occurs when you have as one thing goes up, the other goes up, or as one thing goes down, the other goes down is also a positive correlation. And we'll see that as we graph. A negative correlation, not in this case, but just so that we know, I'll put it down below here. If we have a negative correlation, that would be as one thing is increasing, the other's decreasing, or as one thing's decreasing, the other's increasing. So where the two things are going in opposite directions, that would be a negative correlation. Okay, looking at some real life situations, we're going to identify the correlation that we would expect to see. So the average temperature in a city and the number of speeding tickets given in the city. So as an average temperature increases in a city, for instance, I'm just picking increases so I can compare these. As the average temperature in a city increases, what happens to the number of speeding tickets? They're really not related. There's no relation here, so there's no correlation. They have nothing to do with each other. Temperature and speeding tickets have no correlation. Okay, number of people in the audience and ticket sales. I want to see what's going to happen here. Number of people in the audience and ticket sales. Well, as the number of people in the audience increase, what happens to the ticket sales? Well, they must have increased. As more people bought tickets, the more amount of ticket sales, basically. So as one goes up, the other goes up. Keep in mind that's a positive correlation because they're going in the same direction. Okay, next one, a runner's time and the distance to the finish line. So as the runner's time increases, the distance to the finish line decreases. Since they're going in opposite directions, this would be a negative correlation. Think of another one, like the number of hours studied for a test. Hours studied and test grade. Remember, this is on average, not always, but on average. The more hours you study, as the number of hours you study occurs, what's going to happen to the test grade? Usually that would go up, so that's a positive correlation. What about smoking cigarettes and your health? So, smoking, cigarettes, and health. The more cigarettes you smoke, what's going to happen to your overall health? Well, that would decline. Since those are in opposite directions, that would be a negative correlation. Okay, choose a scatter plot that best represents the relationship between the age of the car and the amount of money spent. Okay, well, as the car gets older, amount of money spent on repairs. I should have finished reading that. As the car gets older, it's probably going to need more repairs. So as the car gets older, the cost of repairs should go up. So as the age of the car goes up, the cost of the repairs should go up. So we are looking for a positive correlation. So it's definitely not this last one because that's a negative correlation. And the difference between graph A and graph B is this negative area. Can an age of a car be negative years old? No, so this is not possible for graph A, and so therefore it's graph B. Okay, example 5. The scatter plot shows a relationship between the total amount of money collected at the concession stand and the total number of tickets sold at a movie theater. Based on this relationship, predict how much money will be collected at the concession stand when 150 tickets have been sold. So you can see that there was my scatter plot down here, and a trend line has been drawn. And if we look at 150 tickets, so it says, let's see, 120, 140, 160. So 150 is about here. And so approximately how many tickets, it's right in the middle there, how many tickets have been sold? Well, you can kind of draw a line across to see where we're at, and so it looks like it's about between 7 and 8, so $750 of concession sales. If 150 tickets are sold, we estimate approximately $750 worth of concession stand sales have occurred. So you can draw a trend line to help you predict.